Today on Minnow at the Table, I'm joined by Laura Webber, Dublin-born, New York-based, and a true powerhouse in the fashion industry. She is the founder of LW Pearl and LW Pearl Atelier. She also designed Team Ireland's Olympic uniforms for the Paris 2024 Games, and her designs have been worn by some of the most influential women in the world, including former First Lady Jill Biden, Michelle Obama, Rihanna, and Anna Wintour, as well as our very own Saoirse Ronan, to name just a few. She's a graduate of the National College of Art and Design in Dublin, and Laura's journey from Ireland to the international fashion stage is both inspiring and deeply impressive. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to be here.
Oh, we're delighted. It's such an honor to have you. So we're very excited to talk about the fashion industry, an industry most women are interested in.
It's a wild one.
Right. So Laura, you arrived in New York 2013. Your suitcase, no job, nowhere to live, no grandiose plan. So
yeah, and
tell us.
When I look back and think about it, I don't know what I was thinking, but at the time it just seemed so fine. It just seemed like, sure, why not? So I had graduated from NCAD and I really, really wanted to work in the industry, and I didn't speak French and I didn't speak Italian. So I was like, New York is really the next great thing that I can go and do what I love to do, which is embroidery. And I had graduated with a degree in embroidery. So I really, really wanted to work in the field. And so I had applied for a 1-year graduate visa and just took the flight. No plan, like absolutely no plan. I had no friends here. I had nothing secured, just decided to up and let's go for it. So it was a plan of 1 year. And I got off the train at Herald Square and walked to the garment center, and I'd found a landing page for a company. You know, back then Google wasn't like as big as it is now. There's people didn't have like extensive websites or anything. And I just found a landing page and it had their address. So I went from the train to the building. I left my suitcase down with the security and went upstairs to the company. And I said to the person that answered the door, like, do you have any jobs? And they were like, who are you and what do you do? And they took a look at my portfolio right there and then, and they said, start Monday. And that was a Thursday. Wow. And so I had nowhere to live, but I had a job. So I was delighted with myself.
Oh, wow. And then how did you figure out the whole, living?
That was a journey. A journey. The figuring out the apartment thing was, oh my goodness, it was so stressful. I was in hostels, then I did an Airbnb, and then I eventually found somewhere out in Queens. And again, like that was just such a huge thing. Here you need a credit score and you need all of these things, guarantors and all of these things, that words I didn't even understand. So naivety is such a blessing in those moments.
Young and innocent, right?
And young and nimble was definitely on my side. So I just figured it out day by day. And, because of the job and because I had something that I love to do and I got to do it, I just made it work, and you figure it out. And so, I kept my head down. I worked and very extensively worked. And was, waiting outside the door before the building would open and getting kicked out at the end of the night when the super came around to lock up. And I was really, head down, just like a horse, just working. And I progressed in the business. I became VP within 3 years. And so, I was doing a lot of cool things and managing a lot of people. And it got to a stage where it just was, I was ready for the next thing. I was ready for a change. I was ready for a new kind of challenge. I hadn't really, there was nothing left to learn. I was kind of done. And so I was ready to make, a pivot and a career change and ready to try something new. And I was pretty exhausted. It had been a good couple of years, almost 6 years. And I had left, and my previous customers, people in the industry heard that I was no longer working at that company and said like, can you take on this one project for us? And, it wasn't something I did anymore. I was like, no, nothing, I'm not doing that. And one person approached me and said, can you come in to our company and do one project? And I was like, no, like, I'm going to take a change. Like, I'm not going to make anymore. And the company was like, here's more money. And I was like, it's not about the money. And they were like, here's more money. And I was like, it's not about the money. And here's more money. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went in for what was supposed to be 3 weeks, and I ended up there for 8 months. And during that time, people heard I was back making, and things just started showing up at my apartment door. I was getting calls. There was just things being thrown at me. And one day my husband came home to our apartment, and my entire living room was to the ceiling with cardboard boxes and machines, and I'd rented an iron and all of this stuff. And he was like, it is time to go get a space.
Okay.
And that was October of 2019. And so I took my first space, and 6 months later the pandemic hit.
Right.
But I had been in 6 months in business, and I'd hired somebody, and I'd, bought machinery and all of these things that I just started to accumulate little by little. And the business just kind of took off. And that's really how I ended up with the company. It was
So
not
that first one, LW Pearl.
Atelier. That
Oh,
was
Atelier. Oh,
Atelier. Yeah. So
Atelier.
that is the company where I manufacture for other people. So it's
Okay.
basically where designers come to me with either an idea or something very specific, or a concept, and I actually make it from a sketch into the reality.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's called product development, and you develop it from an idea into the actual product.
Okay.
And so that is what my company does. And we do it specifically for surface treatment. So we do it for embellishment, embroidery, anything like that's special and custom to the garment, anything that's additional onto a garment, anything like particular buttonholes and all of these special trims and anything added on. And so with that, it's there's French houses and there's Italian houses that are very renowned for what this specific kind of business model is. And I think that it was sort of sought after here. I think that sort of level of the way the French take it or the way the Italians take it, people wanted it in New York. And so I was able to just offer it firsthand, where I'm really, really hands-on with the customer. They're able to come, they're able to see, they're able to touch, they're able to choose. And so the end of that year, which was 2020, Gabriela Hearst and her team approached me for the embroidery for Dr. Jill Biden. And we embroidered all the state flowers onto her dress, her coat, and her mask. And with that, she thanked me publicly. And because of that, a lot of people found out about me. And then it was just kind of like wildfire, like my business really grew.
And what was that like? I mean, I was thinking of, 219, you're taking a space, great. 220, I mean, the pandemic. And so that's a real low. And then you have the high of, embroidering the dress and the mask for the First Lady. So, I
I
mean, lots of
know.
emotions there, right?
I think that, that really kind of sums up what
Yeah.
being in business is.
Yes.
The highs and the lows are
Mm.
massive. They are absolutely massive. And, when you're trying to grow something, there's just so many lows when you're getting no's, you're getting rejections, you're getting, you're fixing mistakes, or you're trying to fix mistakes that you made. Like, there's so many hard things that you have to go through. So I think like that at the very beginning of the business was just like almost normalized, because it's like the epitome of what business really is.
Right.
And when you are trying to build something that you love and that you're passionate about, it's definitely not going to be easy, that's for sure. There's going to be
Yeah.
so many hard days and so many nights that you're like, oh my God, like, why am I torturing myself? So I think that, I was really, really lucky to survive through that. Like, obviously I was so new. and I just got really, really lucky. And it was just a really incredible win then at the end of that year.
Yeah. But were you like, I mean, you must be, oh wow, pinch me moment.
It's funny because I guess, I've been doing it for a long time, and um in the moment you're not thinking about it. You're
Right.
just
Okay.
doing the work.
Oh,
And
okay.
I never I barely took any photos. Like even I didn't even consider what was going to be the aftermath of it. I think that, I really do get caught up in the process a lot. And so I get to work on, a lot of really, really important things. But at
Mhm.
the time, it doesn't feel like that. I just am very, very focused on the outcome of like making it beautiful, making the customer happy, making the client happy. All of those things take precedence over like soaking in the moment. And so then it probably isn't until a good time after that I kind of reflect and I'm like, oh God, that was, I guess, major.
Right. So your focus then, Laura, is it's the brand, you're working on your piece and you want to deliver the best piece possible for your customer, regardless of who
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah. And that's really what takes over.
Mhm.
And, with the atelier, what happens is we do a lot of fashion week. We do a
Okay.
lot of red carpet. We do the Met Gala. We
Oh,
do, things for the Oscars and the Golden Globes and all of those things. And so we're the makers behind those pieces. And then because there's so much, it's like a cascade of just a lot happening at the same time. We become working on 18 gowns or 18 pieces at the same time. And so the pace and the energy that's like happening in those moments, you're just not really thinking about like the moment of it being worn or the moment of it being photographed. You're just thinking like, oh my God, you're measuring millimeters. You're talking about like the shade of a color of a bead. And then you're just getting caught up so much in that then the outcome is really an afterthought.
right. And of course, to us, the outside world, we're there, oh my God, she designed, Saoirse Rowan's dress, or it's, Jill Biden, that's the bride, Laura's embroidery. So yeah, so we're all caught up on the celebrity where it's all
Totally,
the work for you, right?
totally,
Yeah.
totally.
All right. So you did the work on, Jill Biden's dress, and then did business just, really skyrocket after that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a lot of, people finding out what we
Okay.
do.
Okay.
And because it's something very niche and very specialized and it's hard to find. So when you're a designer, you really need good partners to make, like good vendors to make for you and to help you realize the vision of what you're trying to actually achieve. So, some designers don't potentially have in-house support where they wouldn't have in-house makers or they wouldn't have in-house like machinery or equipment. And so us being an outside resource for them where especially in New York where they can just come down the street and actually like see the product being made and being able to like change it on the spot or like make those revisions very, very like quickly. A lot of people produce all over the world. There's people that produce in, Portugal, Egypt, China, India, like people make product all over, but sometimes waiting 3 weeks for something to come and then it's wrong and then the color, all of those things and being able to offer that really on the ground, like boots on the ground is just really something that I think the designers value because of the speed and because of the careful consideration for what we do as well.
Yeah, and bridery is, it's so fine. And uh, I mean, when I look at bridery, I always think like it's just such luxury. Is that to be done by hand, or can you do it is it machine?
So embroidery and embellishment is like an overall umbrella, I would say.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different ways and there's a lot of different techniques. So I would have machinery that would do it, but I also have beaders and hand embroiderers that also are just directly embroidering directly on the fabric. So
Okay.
there's definitely different ways. There's some machines, there's combinations of machines, and then there's sometimes it's just purely hand.
Okay.
So technique wise, there's so many ways of approaching it. Being able to offer combinations of things where potentially one factory doesn't have that machine and we're able to offer it as a combo. All of those things are really, really special for designers when it comes down to actually the making of garments.
Right. I was thinking a little bit of when we were in secondary school, we did the embroidery, but it's a lot bigger than that.
Totally, I know. Like, I try and explain it to some people of like, it is the wall hanging or the pillowcase
Right,
that you did
right,
make.
right.
It is that.
Yeah. So, business is thriving, and then there's the Olympics.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So, you know, I absolutely love what I do so much. I love making, I love designing. It's my entire world, it's my entire life. It's every waking hour, it's me at my laptop, it's me at the desk. It's always a part of my life. And during COVID, you know, it was this huge pivotal point in me taking a step back from major career shift to
Mm.
then like owning a business. But all of those changes allowed me a lot of time. You know, me and my husband also is a designer and a maker, and he's in the business too. And we just had time during COVID to really like make and do and be creative. And it gave us that space that we never really had before. And the brand became something. And we had been making our entire relationship. Like we always are like creating something new, working on a new project, always. And I think that the brand was born and it just started off where it was just slow and small and little bit by little bit. And then we have, private clients that we custom make for. We do some tailoring, we do custom gowns, and it just grew and grew, and our clientele grew and grew. And we, you know, did a little bit online, we did a little bit of wholesale, we did a little bit of private label, all of these things that just started to kind of unfold. And the Olympics. And yeah, so what we did for the Olympics was something really special through the brand. It was something that I was extraordinarily passionate about. And we designed and we manufactured everything. So we made everything ourselves for opening and closing uniforms.
And then, oh yeah,
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, Laura, you moved away from the traditional, the green to the white.
Yeah.
What was the thought process behind that? And I'd love to
So
hear that. The athletes. It must have been phenomenal to work with them.
it was the single most moving part of my entire life.
Oh,
These athletes cannot, like, it gives me shivers how special these athletes are. They are, like, they move mountains. Like, what they do in their careers and, like, their families, like, it is just, their communities, like, it is just so special. They are such phenomenal human beings. I wish, like, the entire country got to meet the athletes. Like, it's just, they are, we should be so proud of, like, the people that represent us because they are just phenomenal and inspirational people. And I think through that process, it was beautiful with the Olympic Council, with the athletes. We were able to get to a point where everyone was super happy. It was obviously, you're trying to make uniforms for all of
Yep.
these different bodies, all of these different heights, weights, lengths, short arms, longer torsos, bigger backs, all of these things. And you're trying to accommodate for all of that. But at the same time, it was the centennial for Ireland. And so the first Olympics Ireland had competed in was in Paris in 1924.
Okay,
And
okay.
so 100 years later, it was in Paris for 2024. And so just going back to your question, that was a huge
Mhm.
decision around the white. It was really rooted in the beginning of the Olympics. The Roman, Greek, like all of that really came into play for the color. And I think just because it was 100 years, it was something that had to be a little bit monumental, a
Sure.
little bit special, a little bit like of statue and stature. And I just really wanted them to feel seen. And, everyone wears green, like in Ireland wears green. and they were for the closing ceremony. But I think just for opening, for it just to be something of like, importance, that's why I chose white.
Yeah. But then there was also little, there was also, still, you still, recognize the symbols, and, there was, I think, little, embroidery of, I think, was it,
Yeah,
and
we
there
had
were
so
shamrock.
many little like
Yeah.
meanings and special things in all of the uniforms. So every athlete got their county patch embroidered
Oh, that
on
was,
their
yes.
arm, and then we embroidered a shamrock three-dimensional brooch. It was all hand embroidered for every single athlete, and they had like a 3D shamrock brooch, which was really representative of like what everyone wears for St. Patrick's Day, like the kind of bundle of shamrocks. And then we had tonal white shamrocks on the back, which were really small, but there was 4 to represent the province. So we had like county, province representation on everyone's jackets. And then, we had the word Ireland, so it was country
Yes.
representation too. And the embroidery for the country, for like the wording Ireland, it was actually made out of a technique of embroidery that replicates grass.
Oh, okay.
So it's called tufting, and it's lifted, raised embroidery, and you feel it and it feels like grass. And that was something that was like really important to like incorporate a little bit of
Yeah.
like Ireland, where you get like texture with it too. And so all of those things, like there was so much meaning behind every decision we made. Like I could bore you till the end
No,
of
no,
time with the
yeah, oh, no,
details.
and I could ask no, and I'm sure, and it's also too, I think the Olympic uniform was, it's a new Ireland too, we have evolved.
Definitely. That was
Yes,
a huge part of it. It
yes,
was like the Ireland of now.
right.
And, we are just thriving as a
Yeah,
country, like thriving, like on the world stage, like just so many things. And it really, I did want that kind of fresh take
right.
on even the style and the cut and the
Right.
silhouette of the jackets. And it was just really important to, represent the
Mm.
way we are now.
And I'm sure, Laura, you felt a responsibility too. I mean, you have these athletes around the world stage representing Ireland, and I mean, you were representing us as well,
Believe me, I felt that for
right?
4 years. Yes,
Yeah.
I felt the weight of Ireland, definitely.
My God.
It was definitely something that I thought about on a daily basis. It was a huge undertaking in terms of just, I guess, psychologically, like it was really, really important to me. I think as well, like, I had so many meetings with the
Yeah.
athletes, and we did fittings, and I got to meet all the athletes' families and hear their stories. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to do everyone proud. And because we were also making it, it felt just wholly as a responsibility, like very important to me.
Yeah. And, you said meeting the families. I mean, it just, it just wasn't transactional. I mean, there was a lot more to it.
It was seriously, it was just the most special thing I've ever done. Like the fittings with all the athletes and them getting to try it on for the first
Oh,
time and making sure like everything's tailored, and it was phenomenal. Like, grannies telling me their stories of like, I've been bringing him to training since he was 5 years old, like standing on the side, like in the rain, like just hearing all of the stories and like the sacrifice of
yeah.
everybody. Like it's not just the person, and like it's not just the athlete, it's the extended family that have like sacrificed for them to be there. And it just was, I want to like, I don't know, write a book about it because it's just so amazing. And I just want everyone to know their names and like what they do and how they live their life and their perspective on like how disciplined they are, but then like just how kind they all are. And it's just, they are the most phenomenal group of
Mm.
athletes and people that I've ever come across. And it beats out anything I've ever made
Oh,
for
wow.
anyone. Seriously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's probably the highlight thus far.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Laura, you're in New York, I'm here in Boston. We both grew up in Ireland, and we always talk about European fashion versus US styles. Maybe, I mean, you're the expert here, so talk to us about that.
I think, obviously fashion is ever changing. I think
Yeah.
trend is just like seasonally, it's like impossible to almost keep up with. But I think from this side, it is definitely more casual.
Hmm.
I think America as a whole is like a lot more casual. It's very like sport core. It's very um a much more relaxed approach to fashion. I think even in New York, it's very like there's a lot of cultural aspects of fashion where there's like, trend followers, trendsetters, where they would be, the Lower East Side and it would be very street and there would
Okay.
be very particular undertones of, groups of cultures of music. I think there's such a very cultural approach to fashion in New York and in America.
Yeah.
Even, like hiking and all of those things have such an impact on American fashion. But I think in Europe, what I've seen, and again, I think trend changes and so much
Yeah.
happens, but I think it's a little bit more, uh, people would dress up a lot more.
Yeah.
I think the just going out on a normal day, people would be a lot more glam versus on a
Mm.
normal day here.
Okay.
And I think that's changed. Obviously, like, 15 years ago, it was everyone was wearing suits to work, and now, like, that's not really the case anymore on the mass majority. So I think it like changes, but I think I would say Europe is a little bit more glam than America on a normal average day.
And do you think, Laura? I mean, yeah, we've seen the change here definitely after COVID.
Yeah,
Um, I felt there was a big, shift, as you said. Guys not wearing suits, and women you can really, represent your, as we say, your whole self and wear what you like. Do you think Europe is going a little bit more casual as well?
Yeah, I think it's definitely taking a little bit more effect
Right.
there now.
Mm.
I think comfort like leggings
Yeah.
and sweats and hoodies and stuff is definitely like a new norm and it's not even like thought about.
Mm.
But I think because there's such a shift in retail, there's such a shift in store shopping, it's so much easier to buy those products online because you don't need to try it on.
Yeah.
So it just shifts a whole way of shopping. It's just a whole different consumer and a different way to fashion.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I mean it is. I mean it's so easier. It's much easier to go online and have your package, 2 days later.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different steps in the
Okay.
process of trend setting. Color comes first, then
Okay.
textile comes second,
Uh,
and then silhouette and style come after.
mm,
But in embroidery or in embellishment, it's very interesting. So obviously we do Fashion Week. We do,
mm.
maybe 10 to 15 shows of New York Fashion Week, and then we do maybe 3 or 4 in Paris. And we'll make for all of these designers. And seasonally, we'll see this season, everybody wants rhinestones.
Oh,
Rhinestones is everyone wants every type of rhinestone possible out there. And that's my business for that entire season.
okay. Okay.
And then I may not see a rhinestone again for 6 months. And next, everybody wants machine embroidery. And my machines are just like backed up. And it's just funny how you see the cycle of what everyone ends up doing. And everyone's obviously doing it a little bit differently
Yeah.
or there's different like approaches to it. But as an average and as a whole, the cycle of the embroidery and the
Mm.
embellishment, we see it all the time because obviously my team is like there making and all of the machines are completely full. Maybe 2 months before they wouldn't have even been touched. So there's definitely trends
Okay.
like ebbs and flows to what comes in and what comes out. Rhinestones, I would never have worn rhinestones
Oh,
10 years ago. And now it's like the latest cool thing to have on your jeans or like on your cuffs. So that's also really interesting to watch. And sometimes really hard to predict.
right.
And it might like, key charms and patches were massive thing at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And we were just making charms and patches like they were going out of style. And so, I think it's hard to predict that because I think that trend just came out of nowhere. So yeah, very, very, very interesting.
Okay, okay. And do you think is that driven a little bit by social media now? I mean, we're all talking about, how social media impacts every business. So how does it impact you? Like,
Most definitely. I think between Instagram and TikTok, like
yeah,
trends pick up and it's the latest, hottest thing that everybody wants. Um, so I think that has a direct impact on how trend happens. Years ago, obviously that wasn't the way, and it was all cataloged, and you to go and see mills and see what their trend was to then figure out what your trend was going to be. And it was like a little kind of domino effect through the industry of color forecasting and then fabric forecasting and then
mhm,
design forecasting. But now, like the cycle and the quickness of how things pick up is literally if a video goes viral or not, or a celebrity calls something out and then everybody wants that one thing or wants to wear that thing. So yeah, most definitely social media has brought forecasting where, forecasting would have happened maybe over a 2-year period
right.
prior, happen in a matter of like weeks and months.
And everything is so instant now.
Yeah. I think that's a huge part of what I find really hard and what I struggle with. Um, fashion is something that I take with such pride and craft, and
Mhm,
I like love making, and we're very careful and considerate about how we make things. And then, we're competing with these conglomerates that are churning out,
yeah,
hundreds of thousands of product in a matter of hours. And you know employee wise, making wise, all of those things you start to struggle with
I know.
because you're like, that's a human being. There's no machine that makes a full garment. It's a human. And so when you see that firsthand and you're like obviously present in factories and how the expectation
Yeah,
of style turns around and people want it like in 2 hours or 4 hours. It's like, that's not humanly possible. And then price wise, the consumer is questioning price a lot. And
okay,
so the value of the maker getting paid a living wage, getting paid like
yeah,
a wage that they deserve for their skill for maybe 25 or 30 years of experience is something them really hard to obviously prove to the
yeah.
end buyer that it's worth it. So
Mhm,
all of those things like obviously come into play, and it's a huge question I think on the top of a lot of people's minds, maybe not so much in like the Gen Z yet,
mhm,
but I think people are becoming a lot more aware of it. And with social media, people see how things are made now, and it's
right.
a lot at the forefront of people's minds. They're like, "Oh, that's not just like you throw it in a machine and it like pops out a shirt." It's like a human. So I think that's also like a big change in fashion.
And and I know you talk a lot about sustainability and, younger people are, I think much more aware.
Yeah, I think like, obviously fashion is a massive, massive contributor to pollution and
Yes.
things like that. And it's, the industry as a whole struggles a lot with that change. And it's really, really hard to be considerate
Yeah.
and not be wasteful. And even like in my own life, I am very careful with the things that I buy. But I think it's just being aware. I think, if you're not buying new product every day or you're like mending something instead of just throwing it away, I think all of those little things make a significant impact.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not like, you're not changing the world, but I think it's really important that you're not just like tossing out a shirt because it has like a little rip. Just like fixing it with a needle and thread, like in 5 minutes, and then it's fine. You can wear it in the house. So I think just little considerations for obviously, you know, big conglomerates need to make massive impact, but as a person, I still think you can make little
Oh,
changes too.
yeah. Oh no, I agree. I mean, former President Mary Robinson, she has stopped buying clothes and just, I mean, shops her closet.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
like, that's an
Isn't
amazing way to, like, even think about it and, like,
it?
we have so much clothes in general. I feel like even my friends, they're like always complaining about how much stuff they have, or, like we have a lot. And I think it's just like looking at it with a fresh eye in a new
Yeah.
way, and just being a little bit more careful about even just like silly things like hairbands and socks and things that you just see as like dispensable and like, or just like whatever.
Right.
And that like somebody made that, like, and just being a little bit more thoughtful about things, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose we say, we're such a throwaway society, so we just really need to kind of reprogram our, our brains.
Yeah, yeah, and even like access, I think also because things are so accessible,
Yeah. Yeah.
we just don't hold them as so much value anymore. Where it's like, oh, I can have this here in 4 hours in
Right.
Amazon. So you just don't really consider it as valuable.
Yeah. Laura, what's your style? What do you like to wear? What colors do you like?
It's funny, I work with so much embroidery and embellishment all day, and I actually don't wear that much.
Okay.
I'm like the shoemaker with no shoes. I do wear a lot of black.
Okay.
Have tried as a little bit of a change to wear a little bit more color, but it's really hard for me. I really like dark colors. I really like oversized. I would wear a lot of oversized shirts, a lot of oversized kind of A-line dresses, and I really like that. I feel just so comfortable and it's so easy to work in, and it's just much more like ease for me. I hate being like tight and like I can't breathe, or I hate that feeling. So I definitely choose comfort. But yeah, my part of my New Year's resolution is definitely to wear a little bit more color. Obviously, I'm not doing it right now.
But I'm sure too, I mean, I can imagine, you're doing so much moving and, stitching and
Yes,
everything. So yeah, you need to, yeah, comfort, I'm sure is number one on your list.
yes, definitely. It's funny when you look at like a lot of people that work in fashion, the designers, the creative directors, they tend to wear a lot of like just very basics, like a
Yeah.
black t-shirt and a pair of jeans. Like
Comfort, comfort. Laura, for somebody that's, we'll say that has, come out of college, graduated from NCAD and is thinking they might, they read your story. I mean, you really are the product of the American dream. I mean, you are the American dream. I mean, what advice would you give them?
I think hard work. I think
Yeah.
hard work is just gets you everywhere.
Yeah.
People come and work for me and they're a hard worker. I just want to help them. I want to help them do what they want. I want to help them get to where they want to be. Like hard work just pays off in leaps and bounds. And I think like, there's different types of people. People are like hiding away from the work and are like, "Oh, don't give that to me. Don't give that to me." I would be the person being like, "I'll do it. I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. Give it to me. No, I'm not too full. Give it to me." And problem solving, I think that's a huge thing. I think not being scared of like making mistakes and then figuring it out and or asking. The other thing is I would drive the people I worked with insane. They would be like, "Go away and stop asking me questions." On their lunch breaks, in the factory that I previously worked in, I would ask the operators to teach me how to use their machines. And I would bribe them with food, like, "Please, I'll bring you lunch if you show me how to use this machine." And they would teach me for 30 minutes, and I would do that every day and just learn how to use a new thing, learn how to do a new thing, just being so curious and just being, really just, yeah, driven and asking questions. I think that just gets you so far because as an employer, when you see someone that's interested and that cares and that even if they make a mistake, but they're trying,
Right.
you just can't be mad. Like you're just like, "Oh, well, at least you're trying." And I think that's a huge thing because I think we're always so scared of making a mistake that you're almost scared to even try. The repercussion of making a mistake. Okay, if you're cutting $2,000 fabric, maybe that's not a place to start, but maybe try cut it on
Wasn't
paper first.
expecting that.
But I think trying, I think hard work, and also never saying no to opportunity. Even if it's an internship and you're like, oh, this is so below me. Like, starting at the bottom is not something to be like embarrassed about. It's not something to be scoffed at. Like, everyone starts there and you just can work your way up. So I think that's kind of my advice.
Yeah. And it is, it's hard. And I
It
guess,
is
yes, I
not
always, success comes to those who are tenacious.
most definitely.
I do want to ask you before we wrap up. You talked about there cutting a 2,000, making a mistake on a $2,000 piece of fabric. I mean, have you been working on a piece and you were there, something went awry?
There's definitely been moments of, "Oh my God." There's definitely been tears, there's definitely been errors, but we are not saving lives.
No.
So that is one thing I do repeat to myself
Yeah.
a lot, to try and kind of come down from the stress. And things are really fixable.
Yeah.
Even when I have slit the front of a dress. I slit the front of an organza dress, and it was due on the red carpet in, like, 4 hours, 5 hours, and I split the front of
Oh,
it with the scissors by I was so exhausted, and we'd been working on it for days, and I went to cut a thread, and I cut the front.
Lord.
I was able to fix it, and no one ever found out, and that was not that long ago, so I'm not gonna say who it was for.
No, we don't. No, that's okay. I would never ask, never ask you that.
So there's, like, there's definite ways of fixing, and like I said, it's not emergencies. We're doing beautiful things.
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely something I try and replay in my mind.
Yeah, it's a good outlook to have. Yeah, we're not saving lives. Um, it sounds, Laura, you've New York Fashion Week, the Paris Fashion Week, you did the Olympics. I mean, you know, really, you've deadlines, it's busy, it's chaotic. I mean, how do you take care of yourself?
I am still learning how to do that.
Okay. Okay.
That is an everyday battle.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
definitely have very high pain threshold. And so it's definitely something that I have to remind myself to drink water. I have to look at the clock and say, okay, tomorrow's another day. There's definitely moments where, obviously I have to keep going and
Yeah.
keep the team motivated and keep everyone working. And then, in the quieter moments, being able to
Yeah.
enjoy it, leave it at the door, close the door behind me and be like, okay, that's on Monday. So it's something I have to keep practicing. It's
Yeah.
something that I really have to keep reminding myself. But, I am in New York and I do get out and try the best I can. And, even just once every few weeks, once a month,
Yeah.
do something nice that isn't in our area, that isn't in, just a little bit out, go to the museums, do a concert, all of those lovely things that are life. And I think on a daily basis, it's harder than overall.
Yeah.
So I think the little things, the drinking enough water,
Yeah.
getting enough sleep, all the so basic, but really easily forgettable when you're in moments of high stress.
Oh yeah, and we all talk about it, but it's easier said than done. And then you're the owner and you have a huge responsibility. You make sure people get,
Exactly.
paid and the bills get paid. So it's
Exactly.
not
It's
linear.
definitely is not on the first or second or third page of the to-do list. And so bumping up a little bit of must take care of, this, try to squeeze it in once a week, once a day, all of those things. And then just little by little, a little bit of effort then goes a long way because it's accumulative over time rather than doing nothing and then burn out. So
Yeah. Um, what do you think is next? You've had some pretty significant moments. Is there anything you're working towards or?
yeah, we have some very, very cool and exciting things happening this year.
Okay.
Nothing I can say yet.
Okay, that's okay. Okay.
Um, you'll definitely just have to watch.
Okay. Okay. That's brilliant. All right. Well, Laura, We wish you the very best. Yeah, we can't wait to see what's ahead for 2026. And this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.